Welcome to Discover Indie Film. I'm Jeff Howard, and I'm very happy because on Zoom with me right now is Tal Anderson. Hi, Tal.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. Thank you so much. It was so nice to meet you last December at the Sherman Oaks Film Festival, 2024 Sherman Oaks Film Festival. You had a film there, Breaking Normal. You were the actor and producer of Breaking Normal and editor, I believe.
Yes.
But, and I would add that Breaking Normal was wonderful to have at the festival, and we had a great Q&A, and you took home the Programmer's Prize, the award called the Programmer's Prize for Exceptional Filmmaking. So I'm giving you my little applause.
Thanks.
and additionally, I'm just going to brag about you because you are a genuine multi-hyphenate performer and honestly, just an all-around Renaissance person with film. On IMDb, you have 30 acting credits, 19 editing credits, 9 producer credits, 8 writer credits, 6 director credits, and I'm not even mentioning when you were in sound department and this and that, probably when you were helping friends and things. So just congratulations. You're doing so much.
Thank you so much.
Excellent. Well, it's an honor. It's an honor. It's so nice to have you here. And I guess I'll just jump into my questions. So the really simplest one is where did you grow up?
Well, I mainly grew up in Florida on the Gulf Coast in Fort Myers, but I was adopted at birth from New Orleans and went home with my parents to Portland, Oregon, where I lived for a year. And then I moved to Florida.
Got it. So, as a kid, were you aware of the entertainment industry? Growing
definitely.
up in Florida?
Definitely. I was 100% aware that LA was the entertainment capital of the world. After high school, actually, I wanted to move to LA immediately. My parents were like, "No, are you nuts? Go to college first and see what you think after that." So I moved to Orlando, got a BS in film from Full Sail University, and after I got my degree, I moved to Los Angeles for an internship in post-production, but really, I came to LA to pursue acting.
Right. So, in a way, it sounds like you were a practical person. You had the editing skills and post-production, but you truly loved acting. So it sounds like you had a really good plan. As a kid, were you were always a fan of TV and movies?
Oh, yes. As a kid, I loved all kinds of media. And of course, all of the usual, Disney and animated shows when I was really young. But I started watching a lot of different genres pretty young. I was a big horror and action fan, and I loved watching 80s films.
Oh, you're after that. You're after my heart because I'm a kid of the 80s. So I love that you went back in time and watched 80s stuff. Well, so besides being a fan of film and TV, obviously you're a very creative person. So were you a creative person as a kid? Like, were you writing stories or play acting when?
Oh, always. I've been a storyteller my whole life. I remember writing scripts that included my favorite characters. I'd act them out and film them on my little flip video camera. I also had 3 of these little Panasonic handheld audio recorders, and I could record all the characters' lines on them and then combine them to follow the script. I was making film even before I knew that was what I was doing.
That is so cool. And it's I'm so glad that as a kid you got access to things. I remember those flip cameras. They were everywhere for a while.
Yes.
Well, was there an age when you started taking acting more seriously?
I think most kids are exposed to acting and performing in more standard ways than I was, like at school. But I didn't go to normal schools, and I didn't speak until I was about 4 years old. And because of this and my autism, I left public school and kindergarten and spent the rest of my time in very small private schools that didn't have drama programs. So any acting I did, I had to do on my own outside of school. I did a few plays at a local repertory theater. Then I started working with a film and television coach, and I started auditioning for local film roles. This was in high school, and from that point on, I started seriously planning on how to get myself into the entertainment industry.
Yeah, wow. So it was really a passion, and because your school didn't have it, so you had to. A lot of people take the easy route and they get recruited onto the school play,
right?
And you had to go out there and get plays away from school, which really shows your drive. Mm-hmm. Well, I see that you have a first acting credit on IMDb is a film called Every Day My Dad Dies back in 2015.
Yes.
How did you get involved in that short film?
Okay, so I submitted for a role on this short film online, and it became my first on-screen appearance. I remember being so thrilled and so excited about the whole process, being on set, the equipment, everything. But, I never actually saw the finished film.
That's so funny. But you know what? That's not totally unusual. I know after I've been involved in film festivals for about a decade, and I have met actors who have never seen the films that I've seen that they're in. That's always funny to me. Well, so I guess I was going to ask you at which point you moved to LA. I saw that you have a credit. There was a film called Cedar Sequoia International in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
At that, were you in LA auditioning for TV roles then?
No, at this point, I was still in school and auditioning in Florida. But this was filmed in Los Angeles. I spent a couple summers when I was in high school as a part of this young actors program. It was kind of a school and a camp combined, but the first time I attended it was in 2016, I think. It's where I had my first headshot taken, and it's the first time I met with agents and casting directors. I think it was actually where I learned that acting was a business, and if I wanted to do it professionally, then I would need to understand how the entertainment business worked first.
That makes a lot of sense. So what were your experiences like with acting and auditions around that time? Do you have any memorable stories?
At this, what was my experience with acting?
Yeah, or when you started auditioning. Well, so you wanted to get more professional. But I was going to ask, what were your general impressions of the entertainment industry? Was it welcoming?
At this time, I was doing very little auditioning. I had an agent in Florida, but I was auditioning for local things. Once I was in college, though, that changed. I knew I was moving to Los Angeles when I graduated, and a couple of months before graduation, I got an audition for a series regular role for a freeform series. I got very close and had several callbacks and phone calls, and the last audition they wanted me to fly to LA for, but I couldn't unless I missed my exams, so I stayed.
That makes sense. Yeah. All right. Well, in 2018, you wrote and directed a short film called Joy. What inspired you to write and direct that project?
Let me look. You're talking about Joy?
Yeah.
I was in college, and I wrote it because I was scared and depressed about the Trump presidency at the time. I felt kind of hopeless, to be honest, so I decided to make a film centered around the question, what gives people joy? Because I was hoping to try to spark some, in myself. There were actors in this film from over 12 countries, and I directed them and the production of their footage remotely from my tiny college apartment in Winter Park, Florida. This time around with the second Trump presidency, my anxiety is like a million times worse. The film was made 8 years ago, but honestly, it's probably even more relevant today than it was then. Maybe it's time for another film.
I think you're so right. In fact, very funny. Last week, I spoke to someone, and he made a film. He started the film. It's animation, so it took him a long time. And there's references in the beginning to a trade war and tariffs, and I'm like, did you adjust that? And he said, no, I wrote it during the first Trump presidency, and now it's relevant again. I was like, oh my goodness. Well, anyway, my next question was going to be, so in 2019 is when you first appeared on Atypical, and your character appeared in 8 episodes. Is there a story of how you came to be on that show?
Yes, so I got the audition initially the normal way through my agent, but it was for a minor role in episode 3 of season 3, I think. And it was for a non-autistic character, unbelievably. But I was a fan of the show, and, I was super excited. So, I auditioned and I didn't get the role. Bummer. But then a few days later, I got a call that I'd been booked for a different role. And I was so confused, but when production sent the script, they told me that my character, Sid, was created and written for me specifically after they watched my tape. For me, this was like a Hollywood fairy tale, and I'm grateful for it every day. Being part of Atypical not only gave me a huge leg up in my career, but because I played an autistic character, it also gave me the chance to become a character on screen that could represent people in my own autistic community. A character that autistic kids could watch and relate to.
Yeah, which was groundbreaking and quite wonderful. Yeah. Well, even while acting on Atypical, you continued telling your own stories. You kept writing and directing shorts and acting in them. Did you take lessons that you learned on other sets? Like after having been in a bigger project like Atypical, did you learn things on those sets and then bring them to your own sets?
Well, I never stopped working on new projects. I've never been someone to just sit around and wait for things to happen. Bringing the lessons to my own projects, though, yes, I guess I did, but I never really thought about it much before now. The Atypical set, for example, was so inclusive and supportive, and the production treated the crew so great. Because there was mutual respect between production and the crew and the cast, it was so pleasant to go to work. It makes a huge difference when people are valued and treated fairly. I've learned that it's really important to make sure that everyone knows they are appreciated for what they are bringing to the project. Actually, most of the sets I worked on have been this way, so I feel very lucky. For example, As We See It was a Jason Tatum series, and it was a great group of people also. And most recently on the set of The Pit, everyone is happy and everyone gets along. Producers are so respectful of everyone, and it's really pleasant to talk to everyone and to work on a set where nobody has any complaints.
It's really nice. Yeah. But it feels like everyone is being more positive now because, there used to be the reputation that everyone was mean on sets, and now it's so nice to hear that they're nice. Well,
yeah, I love what I do, really. It's all about people and relationships because we all want the same thing, to be creative and to produce great work that people will, appreciate and enjoy.
Absolutely. I have a friend who was on a soap opera, and he always told me, actors just want to act. Well, I did notice that with your own projects, whether you're acting or producing or directing, a constant is that you are always the editor. Do you love editing, and do you want to share any thoughts on editing?
Well, I'm an actor, and that's how I identify in this business for the most part. But I'm also 100% a working freelance editor. Editing is what I focused on in film school. I think I gravitated towards things that required protecting continuity. And, I guess I like editing because I have very good attention to detail. I always spot continuity errors while watching a movie, actually. It drives my family and friends nuts. Well, used to. Now they all do it too.
That's funny. All right. Well, I think as I mentioned in the beginning, well, is editing your favorite part of the filmmaking process? Like, is it like sometimes I've talked to people who write, direct, act, edit, and when you're on the set, it's a lot of work. But then I've met people who editing is their favorite part of it because they get to just focus on the work by themselves. Is editing one of your favorite parts of the filmmaking process?
Yes, I think I do like editing the most about filmmaking. I'm hooked on the storytelling for sure, and always. But for me, editing is the best process for storytelling, or at least the best for me. I don't know if it's because I enjoy taking all these little pieces and weaving them together, like I did when I was a kid with my little audio and video recorders, or if it's just the joy of being able to influence and enhance the story in so many ways through the edit. I think it's both. But I think editing for me is a unique way to have a lasting contribution to the story and to the completed project. I edit every day, every single day, whether it's for a self-tape or for my podcast or something for social media. I also edit other things that don't even show up on IMDb.
Right. So you are editing every day. Wow.
Yeah, for instance, I recently edited 55 videos for the Smithsonian Institution for a new traveling exhibit called The Japanese War Brides Across the Wide Divide. And, it was an amazing experience. It was a challenge because it was a really short timeline and a ton of videos. I basically edited 55 short films in 2 months.
Wow, that's amazing. And it's such a wonderful project. And what must have been an honor to work with the Smithsonian Institute. They're such a wonderful, wonderful institution.
Yes, it was. It's currently showing at the Murakami Museum of Japanese Gardens in Delray Beach, Florida.
Oh, how neat! And you have connections to Florida. That's nice. Well,
yeah.
So the film that I met you through, Breaking Normal, as I said in the introduction, it played at the Sherman Oaks Film Festival in December 2024 and took home the Programmer's Prize for Exceptional Filmmaking. And honestly, I just love the way just the fun spirit and mischievous side of that film. It's just so enjoyable. Do you want to share the story of how that film came together?
Yes. So Breaking Normal was made for the 2024 Disability Film Challenge, and it was written, filmed, and edited in 5 days. We formed our crew over the last 5 or 6 years. So everyone works really well together. And I think it really makes a difference. I think the success of producing a film this quickly, it depends a lot on our ability to keep the process and the story simple. And, I think we accomplished that without sacrificing the story.
Absolutely. And do you remember a particularly fun moment on set?
Not really. I mean, the shoot was fun. That whole montage of scenes where we were jumping around and singing and eating jelly beans, that was all so much fun. And, when we plopped down on the couch afterwards, we were authentically out of breath and exhausted.
I think the reason I ask a question about like if they're because it was so fun to watch, and I think we could tell that you were having fun making it too, which is so great for one of those, you know, a 5-day film challenge. That's really neat.
It was a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, when you think about your future, I think I already know the answer now from talking to you, but I was going to ask when you think about your future, do you want to keep just continuing what you're doing, acting in movie and TV series, you know, with Hollywood professionally while still making independent smaller films?
Honestly, I'm an actor. If I could be on, if I could be on set every day of the year working as an actor, I'd be happy. I'd be tired, but I'd be happy. And obviously that's not possible, but I really love working in television. I don't know. I guess I like that it seems faster paced, but unfortunately I was very late coming into the Hollywood TV game. And well, now there really isn't as much opportunity in scripted TV. I do also love film. I just haven't had my chance to work on something large and significant. So, I do look forward to those opportunities. As far as my own work, I create it, whether it's writing or editing or producing for myself. I do it to stay creative, to learn, and to tell my own stories when I'm not hired to tell other people's stories. I guess I feel like if I'm not going to try to give a voice to my own stories and experiences, how can I expect others to? I just feel really proud to have learned and gained the skills I have so I can do it. I also have a ton of support from friends and family and others who feel the same way. Creatives who just want to create and shine a light on thoughts and emotions that we think other people might be interested in or be able to relate to.
Right. And I guess it sounds like acting is really so much fun that if you never got a break from acting on TV series, there just wouldn't be time for independent films and you'd be okay with it. When there's a break, it sounds like you have such a good work ethic that when you have a break, you create something.
Yeah, that would be that would be the best. I love it.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me and do this interview. Before we go, I always ask the guest if there's people that you should thank for the help and collaboration and contributions that you've gotten from, this is a nice chance to acknowledge some people.
First of all, I want to thank the Academy. No, I'm just kidding. Hopefully that happens in the future. I hope you have time for this list. I've been so lucky, my whole life. Growing up, there were teachers and therapists and my family who always supported me and believed in me. And, to this day are like my biggest fans. But also, when I came to LA after college with the help, of my amazing mom, we were able to identify and meet the most incredible industry people who just, genuinely wanted to help me figure out how to make things happen for myself in this business. One of the first people I met was Megan Blaylock, who was at the time a makeup artist, and her husband, Ronnie Smith, who was a fashion photographer. Megan was the first one to offer advice and direction for branding myself to help with the business of breaking into the industry. So like all of the amazing photos you see on my Instagram or on my website were done by Ronnie and Megan. I love them and I'm so grateful to them. Also, when I first arrived, I looked for the best acting coaches in LA and basically begged them to spend an hour working with me. I wanted to know, honestly, if someone who knew what they were looking at could see if it was even worth me staying here and trying to develop a career in acting. Nancy Banks agreed to do this, and I then started working regularly with one of her coaches, Daniel Travis. And, I've been working with those guys going on 7 years now. Daniel always has my back and works with me on the long game to develop as an actor while also navigating, the business to carve out my place in the industry. So, I owe a lot to Daniel and Nancy. I'm also grateful to the creatives that work with me on our small productions. My actor and comedian friend, Anthony Purnell, who has been in like 5 or 6 of my shorts and who created a web series with me when we both moved here to LA, and also works on my horror podcast. We worked together in Florida while I was in college, and we both ended up moving to LA in 2018. So we just agreed that we should just, create and shoot and tell visual stories because that's what we both love to do. Our DP, Harold Jr., who without our films would look so bad, and my good friend, Nicole Betts, an amazing writer who I met working on Atypical, who's always on board to create and tell stories. My life is so much better with her in it. In general, of course, I'm thankful for my team who are amazing. That Natalie Thomas and Adam Griffin at Vault Entertainment, Katie McGrath at Arise Artist Agency, and my publicist Anna Cranes at Conscious Hollywood PR. Also, both of my parents who are on my team and have my back at all times. And that's not the whole list, but I hit the major ones, I think.
Yeah. And I knew eventually you were going to hit your parents because I was honored to meet your mother, I believe, at the festival, who was a producer on Breaking Normal, and I really enjoyed talking to her.
Yes, she's amazing. She's awesome.
She's awesome. Absolutely. As are you. All right. Well, I will make sure that in the show notes for the podcast, there will be clickable links, both to where Breaking Normal is showing on the Easter Seals 2024 Disability Film Challenge website. So we'll have links, and if you want links to your exciting podcast, we'll put links to that and links to your Instagram, whatever links you want, we'll put it in the show notes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And now I will go ahead and name the things that'll be links down there for me too, which is well, first of all, thank you, Tal.
Thank you so much for having me. That was a lot of questions, for someone who does not like to talk about herself. But I appreciate you having me on. Well,
I really appreciate I really appreciate you doing it. You don't. I also admire your humility that you don't love talking about yourself, but I really appreciate that you took the time and that you said yes to this invitation. So I will thank you, and now I'll thank everyone who's listening. If you are listening to this is the Discover Indie Film Podcast. If you want to learn more about it, just go to discoverindiefilm.com. On social media, it's always at DIFWins. There actually is a little TV series on Amazon Prime Video called Discover Indie Film. I believe there's 7 seasons up, and it's films that we've had at the film festivals over the years. Short films don't have enough places to go, so I tried to help people out with that Discover Indie Film series. So if someone's listening and they love indie film, I could recommend that. I mentioned that Tal's film played at the Sherman Oaks Film Festival. We hold that festival every December, and it's ShermanOaksFF.com, and it's at ShermanOaksFF on social media. It does have a sister festival every June called Film Invasion Los Angeles. People want to check that one out. It's filminvasionla.com, and it's at Film Invasion LA on social media. This year is the 10th anniversary for both festivals, so been at this for a whole decade. And we're going to try to make the 10th year kind of special. And the last thing I'll mention to everybody is I just mentioned the name Film Invasion Los Angeles. Well, I mentioned those two are sister festivals. There's now a cousin for next year in 2026 in January. We're going to have Film Invasion Lima, Peru. We're actually going to South America with the festival. So that's kind of exciting. I have never been to Lima, so I get to go to Lima for the first time next year. So anyway, thank you again, Tal.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, and thank you everyone for listening.